Good day, my name is Dr. John Sampson, and today in the African American Culture Show, we're going to be talking about the great notoriety, fame, and potential of Deion Sanders has brought to Jackson State University and the city of Jackson, Mississippi in general. I would be amiss without giving some acknowledgement to the greats of Jackson State University before, such as Dr. John A. Peoples, who was the president at Jackson State University when I attended in the 80s, and my great uncle, Coach T.B. Ellis, who was both coach of the football team as well as director of the athletic department. He's now been inducted in the Mississippi State Hall of Fame for sports. And currently we have President Hudson, who is doing an excellent job of leading Jackson State University, and our National Alumni Association President, Dr. Alexia Norwood. Okay, now let's get into the program. Hey, and while we're getting into it, why don't you just click that like button or subscribe and subscribe. Hey, how about doing them both so we can continue with fantastic content like this? So that now let's look a little bit more as to why Jackson State University is getting about 50 to 60,000 attendance at its games, as opposed to many other FCS teams that are down in the doldrums, and the Celebrity Bowl itself, which has never had that kind of attendance. Now, we all know that Jackson State is running 50 to 60,000 attendance per game. But let's put this in perspective. Montana, 24,000. Montana State, another FCCS team, 15,000. North Dakota State University, 12,500. Villanova, 5,100. Jackson State is bringing it. Not just in comparison to other HBCUs, but in comparison to other FCCS teams in general. Hey, today's African American culture topic is going to be on the issue of celebrity potential in the Black community. We've always wondered what would happen if the celebrities and the talented musicians and artists of the world who are of African descent were able to actually focus some of their attention on the Black community, on Black institutions, such as historically Black colleges and universities. Well, there's some exciting things happening at Jackson State University that pretty much represent what that potential is, both lost potential in the past and potential for future development. Attendance is key. If we bring a lot of people to the games, that brings economics, that brings money. As they say, money talks. And so when we're bringing 50 to 60,000 people to these games, we're impacting all people in Jackson, all people in Mississippi. And when we can bring those kind of crowds, and then when Deion Sanders says he wants Ole Miss fans, he wants Mississippi State fans, he wants all fans to be rooting for Jackson State because it represents economic growth for Mississippi, then those people will listen.
Jackson State was packed on Saturday. This is what it looks like to have 58,892 fans in your stadium.
Before the Jackson State Prairie View game, Deion Sanders reminded Mississippians that there was no other Mississippi football games going on for that weekend, and that Jackson State was the only Mississippi team going for a championship title at this time. He implored Mississippi State and Ole Miss fans to support Jackson State and attend the game that weekend. And as reported in HBCU Sports on December 8th, this gentleman here named Walker Sturgeon, who was a diehard Ole Miss fan, took the coach up on the offer. And even though he's usually on Saturdays down at Oxford, Mississippi, cheering on the Rebels, he stated, "I could sit at home and watch boring Alabama, or I could actually go to the SWAC championship and watch the Battle of the Bands, enjoy the atmosphere, and watch this amazing game." He said people just don't know what they're missing. "I walked in there, a white boy with my Ole Miss stuff on, carrying my Mississippi flag, and at the end of the day, they were warm and welcoming even after the fact. If anything, that is indicative of the hospitality that Jackson State exudes."
The championship game was the last home game this year, and the numbers are in. According to Visit Jackson, it's estimated that JSU football brought in a whopping $30 million in revenue to the capital city.
I don't know if we've ever seen anything like that. It's record breaking.
Yolanda Claymore says from retail to restaurants, every business in the city felt the Coach Prime effect. With the pandemic far from over, she says this economic boom came at the right time.
Well, it's vital.
Just imagine that impact.
A lot of businesses have closed.
JSU football brought in $30 million of revenue to Jackson, Mississippi. Do you know how badly Jackson, Mississippi needs that revenue? That is incredible.
Every time there's a home game, we're sold out.
Louis Formby, the general manager, says business is booming. He says for the Oakhorn State game, rooms were sold out 2 months in advance. As one of the newer businesses in the area, he expects more developments as a result of the Tigers' success.
I'm excited about the opportunities for Jackson State. If you build it, they will come.
In Jackson, Cecil Hannibal, 16 WAPT News.
Okay, that's what he says. What's Stephen Smith say?
An HBCU team outdrawing programs in the Pac-12, in the Big 12, in the ACC, outdrawing teams ranked in the top 25. Ladies and gentlemen, that would qualify as very big news. And that is very big news for historically black colleges and universities. Because this is how momentum builds. Big crowds, big name coaches like Deion, like Eddie George at Tennessee State, highly rated recruits like Shador Sanders and other 4- and 3-star recruits now seriously considering and even signing with HBCU programs. HBCUs are becoming a major factor in college football, y'all. You can see it everywhere you look. And you can see it in person, too. If you can get it.
Now with the corporate sponsors like those from Aflac, corporate sponsors like Cricket, corporate sponsors like Pepsi, and many more, well, hopefully we can get some funding to improve both the sports programs as well as other aspects of the universities.
Some college players give it their all.
Well, all right then. You've heard it from Stephen Smith.
No complaints.
You've heard it.
No shows.
We're on the radar screen.
But when I say player,
HBCU football is on the radar screen. HBCUs are on the radar screen. Jackson State's on the radar screen. Major football players that would have been looking at other universities that aren't HBCUs are now looking at HBCUs as being prime time possibilities for getting noticed by the NFL scouts, for getting groomed and developed into better football players. We all benefit. Just imagine what this potential means when you look at all of the other talent that we have throughout the country. People who aren't returning those talents back to the HBCUs. If just a fraction of those people gave back, wow. Think about that. Well, what do you think? Come on, comment below. Express yourself. Do you think that this is going to be an economic boom for Jackson State University that will be sustainable? Is it something positive for Jackson and Mississippi, for HBCUs overall? Or is this just a passing fad that's going to have no long-term effect? What's your opinion?